Oh, and the date is now. Yep. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for that wonderful welcome. I'm getting used to all this, standing on stages and getting clapped and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's been a busy week, but I'll get to that in a minute or two. My name is Mal Burns. That's MAL, one word, and BURNS, the second word. But if you want to find me on Twitter, you're going to have to squash me. I can't say it's an enjoyable sensation, but nevertheless, you will have to go to twitter.com/Malburns, MALBURNS. Likewise, you can go to our show Twitter feed, which is twitter.com/Metaworld News. And guess what? That's been squashed as well. The web is the world of squishy squashiness. Yep, it's not real. It's all fake. At least it's like rotten apples. You don't really want to touch it or believe it. Yeah, squishy, squashy, webby. Sorry, the silly season has not started yet, except for here. Right. Okay, I am joined also in the studio by James Atloud. Welcome, James.
Oh, well, thank you, Mal. It's great to be here. I am pushing buttons, but I've been pushing Second Life buttons. I have to get back into pushing Sansar buttons.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
a
I must admit,
little
I
bit
was
of
there
difference,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, firstly setting up the settings and the way they work, and then using the in-world heads-up display for filming over there. And it's actually one of the few things good in Second Life is that I've got this amazing. Well, we both got this amazing camera HUD.
Right,
But
right,
when you haven't been there for a while, it's very easy to actually forget exactly which button to click and when, So,
right.
did about 2 or 3 sessions before I actually got to grips with it again. And now, of
Yeah.
course, I come somewhere like here, and where is it? Where's my head?
Where is it? Well, and for me, it's just,
Yeah,
to jump in Second Life is to double tap the E key, but to jump in Sansar is the space bar. So it's those little things that
yeah,
can
exactly.
tax
You get
tax
that.
an aging mind.
I think that's one of the reasons these worlds keep their users so much is because it's not just hard work loading another interface and going to a different world. It's a learning curve for all the new quick keys and stuff like that.
Right, right.
I mean, I think one of the reasons the transition from the walled garden of Second Life through to OpenSim and the hypergrid is because of the extreme similarity
Mm-hmm.
in function, because they both share the same kind of viewer interface, even though the underlying code is somewhat different.
Right, right.
So if I press a button in OpenSim, it does pretty much the same thing as it will in Second Life, which made it very easy sort of transition. But these days, all these new things,
Yep.
new buttons and everything.
Well, I'm not.
Anyhow, I'm
I,
glad to
I'm
see
not.
that you.
Yeah, I'm not sporting a shirt with any animation or glowing graphics, but I do have a. This is a new shirt, and it's from. Let me put the designer. It's from the Lost Horizon store. And
Right.
I want to get to London. This time a year ago, my hope was to get to London again, and
Yeah.
that didn't happen last year. So here
Well,
I am
yeah,
now.
I remember it, but I think it was a couple of weeks before the pandemic hit.
Yeah,
You were saying
yep.
to me sort of you thinking of coming over and any interesting things. It's a good time to come. And before I had time to consider it, it was lockdown. Yeah, great.
Yep. So well,
Well,
maybe we
they
can
I
start
don't think
again, right?
it will be a while. I think it's beginning to look like nobody will be even though we might be let out of our houses for summer. It doesn't look like we're going to be allowed out of the country. Because Europe is getting worse and worse and worse, and a lot
Oh,
of
right,
well,
right.
you know, we're actually in a good position, but it would just make one mistake, like allowing. You, in a way, Brexit's convenient, because we got an excuse not to allow the Europeans in.
Right, right.
They've
Or
got the
the
excuse to keep.
Americans, right,
Well,
right.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, basically, anybody coming into the country I think really has to go into 10 days quarantine, and they have to pay for their own government hotels and stuff like
Mm,
that.
sure, sure.
So, a lot of people are not even going to want to go for a weekend somewhere when it's going to cost them 10 days and a lot of money to come back.
Right, right.
Oh, anyway, but yeah, that's that. But yes, indeed, the London, there's quite a few London events up in Sanzor at the moment. The people who did Glastonbury last year, sort of course involved with a lot of these things. They did come about. I've going to a few of them. They do tend to get a bit samey after a while, but it's great they're getting people in and real life performers or DJs and
Oh
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, yeah. So yes. Anyway, so James, folks, is pressing the buttons that allow my desktop to be shared with you as well as my avatar, and who knows what else as well when it pops up, so to speak. And yeah, so I haven't got my pussy around today. He's deserted me.
Oh,
Where are you,
okay.
Pudding? Where are you, Pudding? Nah,
Hmm.
can't find him. Can't see him anywhere. Never mind, never mind. Leave me to concentrate on the show, won't it?
Yep.
Okay, okay. So, what next do I say? Oh, yes, well, I can finally tell you, at last, without any further hesitation, that you are about to hear our news headlines for the week ending
Oh, right.
the 21st of March of the year
My goodness.
2020.
My goodness.
Would you believe it? Took a long while to get to that bit.
Yep.
21st of March 2020, which is today, and the headlines are for the week before. But as usual, I'm going to be starting with a web post that comes out on Monday looking for the web for the year before that. I mean, not the year, the week before that. Right. Oh dear, dear me. Right, okay, I've got that loaded, but on the page, right, there's a short. I said it's been a busy week. We've had Virtual World's Best Practices in Education conference from sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All week, of course, in the real world, as with the South by Southwest, say I got it right
Mm.
today,
Yeah.
conference has been going on. It's online, and you can't get in without paying a lot of money. But I mean, the reviews have been very spectacular. And yeah, what else was happening? Well, I'll start with South by Southwest. This is their online XR teaser, which Skull goes to put on his blog. So I'm going to quickly play that to you to give you an idea of what they did there. Apparently, I think it's Austin, Texas, and they recreated so much of it that was stunningly realistic. They were getting a lot of comments, but this was just their trailer anyway. Oh,
Okay.
don't think we got all of it. I'm not sure we actually got all of that. The funny thing was the silhouette of the character in the foreground with the long hair and the top hat looked like my Second Life avatar. It wasn't. He looked like my one of my old Second Life avatars
Oh,
in
wow.
yeah, in profile. Anyway, yes, here we are. This is the site we're on. It's called thescarredghost.com. SKARREDGHOST.com, and sometimes accompanied by a sound effect. And very
Sometimes.
occasionally not. Occasionally not. But anyway, there it is. The Howling Ghost. The XR Week Peak, published every Monday basically, and he rounds up the week's news from the week before. Obviously, tomorrow morning, Monday, which will be the 22nd of March, there'll be a new edition. So this is last week's roundup at the beginning of the week we're covering, so to speak, March 16th. Um, Facebook, quite interesting. Fully a third of all Facebook's worldwide employees are actually working on VR AR projects. So it's not a small amount of. It's not a sort of forgotten limb of their operation. It's a part of their operation that has more employees than anything else. Um, HTC has launched Tracker and more, as he says up there. So scrolling down, that's the film we just had a quick look at just now. HTC's Vive Tracker and the facial tracker there. More on those toys later on. Um, yeah, 10,000 people are working on XR in its various forms at Facebook. And um, oh, actually, here it says 20% of the total workforce. I understood it's more
Hmm.
like a third. I suppose it depends who you count and what they're doing. Um, yeah, The God Emperor Zuki did a Marquis Z. Is, is he's known here as Marquis Z. So
Wow.
okay, God Emperor, the God Emperor Marquis Z. Right,
That's his
gave
DJ
us a
name, right?
bunch. Yeah, gave us a bunch of other interesting info about his operations, mostly about the hardware he hopes to use to control the world with, as opposed to his aspirations for controlling the world. But subtle difference, I suppose. Let
Hmm.
me move on before I get myself into trouble. The Apple AR headset, this is rumors, of course, has been anyway, but now the rumor says it's delayed to 2025. Don't believe a word of it. I mean, I can't see anything being delayed by 4 years where Apple concerned. I can see that they don't rush anything out, but there we go. Um, okay, always rumors about Apple, of course. Um, Tundra trackers, whatever they be. These are 95 US dollars, and I guess they're trackers you hold in your hand when you're in a VR headset. Um, yeah, more information about it, and etc. etc. Really, as I say, this is news from the week before last, so I'm not going to dwell here. But if you want a very good site to catch up on at the beginning of tomorrow, you can always go back a week and check out the same site, scarghost.com tomorrow. So midday US time tomorrow, and you should find a new edition of this one is up there. So without further ado, let's move on to the actual post from this week. And the first one I've got up here is from a site called immersivedirectory.com, which is taking one large amount of time to load, isn't it? There we are. Right. This got retweeted quite a bit, actually, although, I mean, well, just the idea of more than anything else. Learning from the past to build for the future. Um, Good idea. There is such a thing as the past, and we don't know what the future is yet, so we might as well look to the past to make the future. Does that figure? Hmm. It's not no such thing as a present, of course, because the present is just, as I say, a fleeting moment on the cusp between the future and the past.
It's very philosophical.
It is. I'm in favour of that one.
Mm.
I got an applaud when I first came up with that, so I remembered it. Right. Okay. So this is just a general sort of chat, pointing out that virtual and augmented reality aren't particularly new technology, but it is now their time to shine. There was a similar poster this we covered last week where they mentioned the Viewmaster of the 1930s and stuff like that, and basically looking back as well as looking forward. Um, it's an anecdotal article, really. It doesn't really go into any huge amount of depth about what you could learn from the past. Just covers a few little things from the past that really are early incarnations of what we're doing now. Right, moving on. I have two from voicesofvr.com this week, and I'll do the first one, then I'll try and find the second one. Segue. Right, this is Kent Byers' show, of course. Oh, by the way, I'll just repeat that last site was a site called Immersive Directory. Two words squashed together as one, immersivedirectory.com. Right, this, of course, is very easy. It's voicesofvr.com, voicesofvr.com. And show number, podcast, as it were, 984. When we were so close to 1,000, there's got to be a party of the week of 1,000. This is about live theatre and VR experiments with a performance of something that was called Love Seat. Um, it was an ambitious fusion of performance with VR technologies that premiered at Venice Film Festival actually in 2019. And they've been doing more stuff ever since. And basically, Ken Bai had a chance to chat with them um, after performances, stuff like that. Very little to read there, but of course it's a podcast, so that's the place to go for the link to load the podcast. Voicesofvr.com. Also on the same site, we have number 985. Oh, which is actually the more recent one. Yeah, no, that figures right. Um, Facebook HCI research on augmented reality neural inputs, haptics, contextually aware AI, and intelligent clicks. We did say that the passport was up to various things, didn't we? The Facebook Human Computer Interaction Research on AI Neural Inputs, haptics, etc., etc. On the record event for printing quotes, but oh yeah, he wasn't given permission to use any direct audio quotes, so whatever. He still managed to make a podcast out of it anyway. Um, there's nothing. There's no shortage of things to talk about where the affairs of the God Emperor are concerned. So there you go. Right. Moving back here. Just to as I jump this one to get to two of those at once. Right. This is about another virtual worldy sort of place, social world called the Rec Room. And hot on the heels of Roblox going public and sort of not only going public and funding wise and stuff like that, but also announcing they were going to pay out a lot of money to creators. Rec Room has now done the same thing. They've announced plans to pay more than $1 million to creators to start up the platform, I guess.
Wow.
Um, I wonder how this will pan out, because when a company does that, they're obviously going to lay down the rules about quality and stuff like that, I should think. They want to be appealing to kids to create, but you need to be 18 years of age of older or have parental consent to get paid at least. Um, and looking back on Second Life, for example, I mean, it was very successful over what is 18 years now. But they never paid for their creators, even though it's known
No,
as a
no.
world full of creator stuff, as is OpenSim. There's nobody there paying you to create. It's all happened very organically. So everything you see there, wall garden or not, it's actually designed and produced by the users, or in many cases, consumers or creators or both. Um, but nothing is handed down by mandate, so to speak. So when you've actually got the company sort of paying for these things, it's really like employing designers to be on the staff when you're making a game, isn't it? You put a few
Well,
people in
sure.
charge of designing the avatars and designing the furniture and the tunnels or whatever it is.
Well, and it gets out of
Um,
that big problem in Second Life about, Second Life said you own the things you create. Well, if Rec Room pays their artists, then they don't own it. Rec Room owns it. Maybe that's better. Maybe
good
that's
point.
clear. Yeah.
Good point. One would have to actually see the agreement, yeah. But if it's
Right,
like
right,
a purpose, if it's a purchase order for digital goods, then the company can resell them at a profit
right,
and make money out of what you did originally.
right, right.
Not something Linden Lab really can't do. Um, there's
Exactly.
it's debatable whether you
Right.
really own the copyright
Exactly.
when you
Right.
use their tools and their prims to do it. But on the other hand, there is no the they can't take your wonderful house, as it were, and sort of sell it for themselves before you put it on the
Right.
marketplace and stuff. So, yeah, sort of pros and cons there. But anyway, Vet Room definitely going into that along with Roblox, and I don't know, I don't know whether Fortnite, which is the other really big one, is actually what they do about content at the moment. I mean, these worlds or games or social games or whatever you want to call them, really have just come out of they haven't come out. Rec Room's been around for ages and Discord and stuff, but with COVID and everything else, last year they just seem to have emerged out of the blue and they've just become gigantic, compared with the Second Lives and things that were there before. And quick rabbit hole here, slightly Linden's, which Linden Lab operates Second Life, and the CEO and various other people from the lab took part in something called the Quadrivium, as well as an interview with the CEO at this education conference. And they were very enthusiastic about pointing out, all is good. We've got a new ownership team. We're really focusing on expanding things, and we rather hope, in the near future, sort of triple our users. But I mean, tripling Second Life's users is still a drop in the ocean compared to the number of users people like Roblox and Fortnite have. Um, the interviewer, an educational interviewer, was sort of referred to these things as their new competitors, Um, but it's not really competition when you've got that extreme difference of a mass market product and a fairly niche product. And great if Second Life became a mass market product, but most people agree that whatever their aspirations and whatever improvements they make, they can't scale. And James and I were talking before we came on air about how much they've moved all their things to the Amazon cloud now, which is supposed to improve things a lot from the Linden Lab servers. Yet both James and I have really high-powered machines to deal with this thing, and we were experiencing lag and all sorts of things that just shouldn't happen. With only, sometimes maybe about 70 people in a simulator. They should be able to handle, a couple of hundred in an individual simulator, or, maybe 800 if they join 4 simulators together. If it can't perform properly in the Amazon cloud with 70 avatars, what's going to happen when they do try and put on a big event, let alone sort of get 3 times the number of users? So um, I have to take that as a pinch of salt. I think we're all very fond of Second Life still, I think we realised it after a few days in there. But it's its future. I think is uncertain in not in terms of survival. I don't think so much as where it will go and how influential it will remain. So out of the rabbit hole and into the next. And I guess where were we?
That was a good rabbit hole. I like
Yeah.
that
Okay.
one.
So
That was good.
yeah. Sorry.
Yep. That was a good rabbit hole. I like that.
Oh
Good
yes, yes,
topic.
it was a
Yep.
good time. It was a good rabbit hole. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it was a bit soggy, but not burning too much. Whatever. Right. Um. Yeah. So out the rabbit hole. So that's Rec Room anyway. They are now paying people. You can find this post, which I've actually got on screen, of course, at uploadvr.com. uploadvr.com. Moving on down. Um, we're back on the Fastbook again. It's one of those weeks, isn't it? This is our friends at Road to VR, roadtovr.com, in fact, roadtovr.com. And Fastbook reveals the latest wrist-worn prototypes for XR input and haptics. And short of form, this was featured, I think, in the Scar Ghost post too. But here we are, risk-based input, and we might as well have a little butchers.
AR devices, we're asking the question, how do we build a computing platform that is truly human-centric? Facebook Reality Labs is a pillar of Facebook dedicated to bringing AR and VR to people, to us, to consumers of the world.
Every single computing era requires new input devices, new set of interactions that is possible.
The AR glasses, I think the key here is to communicate with our computers in a way that is intuitive, entirely new level. The wrist is a great starting point for us technologically because it opens up new dynamic forms of control. This is where some of our core technologies like EMG come into play. Neural interfaces may work right, still have a lot of work to go here. Feel like magic.
So if you send a control to your muscle saying, I want to move my finger, it starts in your brain, it goes down your spine through motor neurons, and this is an electrical signal. So you should be able to grab that electrical signal on the muscle and say, oh, okay, user wants to move the finger.
What is it like to feel like pushing a button without actually pushing it? That could be as simple as, hey, I just want to move this cursor up, move it left. Well, normally I would do that by actually moving. But here, you're able to move that cursor left. And it's because you and a machine agreed which neurons mean left, which neurons mean right. You're in this constant conversation with the machine.
This new form of control, it requires us to build an interface that adapts to you and your environment.
Everything starts with a click.
The intelligent click is the ability to do these highly contextual actions in a very low friction manner.
It's kind of the purest form of a superpower. You are in control, but the system is exactly inferring the right thing. All you have to do to operate it is just click.
So for example, if I'm cooking and I'm kind of pulling some noodles out of a box, the interface could ask me, would you like to start boiling the water? This can also be a spot where the technology is communicating back to the user.
The haptics, the sensation of touch around us, this is part of how we learn and use motor control. It's critical to AR and XR.
We wondered, as you pull back the bowstring on a bow, if we tied that not to the tension growing on people's fingers, but rather squeezing on the wrist, would it add to that experience like you're pulling back the bowstring? The answer is yes.
That future, it really is the computer that is seamlessly integrated into your day-to-day life. The next computing platform is the mixed reality platform, the one that really totally blends your virtual environment and your real environment in a seamless way.
We're in this moment where we can move from personal computing to personalized computing. What if you and a computer agreed to design a keyboard together? You type faster on it than anybody else in the world could type on your keyboard. I think what this enables is the ability to not have to focus on a computer and be able to still interact with other people. It's going to open up a new generation of communication, access, and navigation. It leads to this phenomenon of increased agency, you feeling like a level of control you've never had before. We want computing experiences where the human is the absolute center of the entire experience.
Well, wonderful stuff there. Input on the wrist. My worry when I see something like that, I mean, apart from obviously my concerns about the company doing that, is that you saw earlier on in the clip, you know, that all those things look wonderful from your viewpoint, but the viewpoint they were showing was one of people obviously can only get that if they've got a helmet on. And you know, I think the future is going to look very like that, but it's going to have to look like that without the idea of a helmet. It's got to be very lightweight glasses or contact lens or something like that. I will pause there and say no more because near the end of this list, two posts came up today, which is rather interesting on that very topic. So that post was at roadtovr.com and written by their main guy, in fact, Ben Lang. Dated March the 18th, roadtovr.com. And moving on to a slightly more obscure site, well, from our point of view, artnet.com. This is newsartnet.com, so NEWS dot ERTNET.com. And this is, it's just a good post, association with Art21. Cal Fei, she used to be in Second Life too, may still be actually. She was known as China Tracy, and she had this sort of city thing. Oh, it must be about 10 years ago at least now. And she was here in the UK exhibiting it. So she had a real life model of the city that she'd built in Second Life. So she didn't have a real city, but she had a real life model of it and various other things she exhibited in the Serpentine Gallery over in the park here in the UK, London. And yeah, she charming girl. I mean, I say girl, I better say woman, really. I mean, she had that very young feel about her, anyway. And fascinating when you consider she comes from China, which is not exactly their political structure is not what I would call very conducive to creativity, but nevertheless, you know, the exceptions appear. Anyway, this is an article at ArtNet about her, and it's actually looking. She's based in Beijing and has been immersed in alternative realities and what they represent her entire career. So I guess she was young when she started. Right, they've got an exclusive interview they filmed as part of Art 21's extended play series. There's a link there. I think you, if you follow the links, I'm sure you can actually find the filmed interview. There she is, in fact. Yeah, she has aged slightly. But the interesting thing about this article is it actually she she mentions Second Life, where residents take on identities known as avatars, and talks about the project that extended from 2007 to 20, yeah, to 2012, like 5 years there. RMB City, featuring China Tracy. Yeah, so I was right. So, wow, it was 13. Yeah, 13 years ago. Not Time flies, does it not? Okay, so she in the film she reflects on that, and obviously very keen on what she was able to do in Second Life. Um, she has a new solo show in Beijing at the UCCA, whatever that is, called Calface Staging the Era, and it's a sprawling overview of her work from the past 2 decades. Yeah, there you are. And I think this particular clip is a wee bit long for us, but I'll just give you. Oh no, it's not that bad. It's a trailer.
Is that the person eventually close to one's own. This comes from my observation of some people and their avatars to For example, the distance avatars keep from one another when they interact in life is very close to what happens in real life. When someone gets too close to you, instinctively a step or two away. Because even though it's the interaction between two avatars, you can still sense the subtlety and the degree of intimacy, and so the need to keep a distance. I think it applies to many things, including the way they talk or type. Some people are very. They may bump you, or the language they use may contain a certain degree of violence. I think the avatar's identity is basically akin to one's true persona. Maybe it's just me, but I think some people might reveal their true persona of their avatars.
I love that in the
When we
Pixels We
travel through
Trust.
Second Life, we inevitably project our first life into it.
Yeah, we're just hearing maybe every 6 words, Mel, and then.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. It's pretty quiet, so it drops out.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, anyway, you can, of course, go to news.artnet.com to check out that. And I'll tell you what I'll do while we're here. I will just give it a click and a click and maybe not. Okay. Oh, I'm in reading mode. Sorry, the clicks don't work, so we can't go to that. That definitely looks like it's on YouTube anyway. So it's not having anything here, is this? Yeah, but anyway, yeah, go to newsartnet.com and you can watch that. It's only about 3 minutes, but it's a translator speaking basically what she's saying, and most of the film footage is actually quite old and looks rather dated. You can then click through to YouTube and find more if you want. From the history department, so to speak. Right, moving on. This week in XR. This is the text version of This Week in XR, which you'll find at Forbes.com, Forbes.com. This Week in XR, and they're talking about Facebook's invisible computing research. Pretty much similar to that piece I was showing you a few minutes ago. Indeed, that clip is from the very clip we were looking at. Not really much to say there. On the Facebook side. KLM is increasing their training to train workers, right? Due to the pandemic. But this is a rather nifty one. It's called The Crown. I've got another piece on this coming up later. It's a new wearable. Now, it's not quite a headset. This sounds quite useful. I don't know how heavy it is, but it's well, you just wear it. You can see from the photo how it wears. It's from a company called Neurosity, and it's a wearable device that puts users in control of their focus. So this isn't VR per se, although in fact I don't know you could put a VR headset on at the same time anyway. But it's an EEG wearable device and it connects, believe it or not, with they've got a lovely typo here called a Spoffity. Spoffity they're referring to is of course Spotify, the wonderful music service that I use 24 hours a day almost. It basically it connects to Spotify. where it will identify the music that syncs with your user's focus at a particular point in time to help you boost productivity. And it also has other neuro-driven apps. It's not cheap, um, although maybe it is for what it is. It's nice, $900, but it basically is capable of mapping your brain and also taking information from your brain, sending it to Spotify to identify sound, actually, rather than the artist playlist, but to identify music that will actually uniquely boost your productivity and whatever. Um, who knows whether it works or not? I don't, so I'm not going to throw 900 quid at them just to find out. But it's another interesting idea, especially for people like me. I don't know that I want to wear that much, but I mean, I have music in my environment all the while. I even sleep with music in my environment, and Spotify is ideal because when I'm not actually listening to the radio, I can load anything into Spotify and I can program it and control it all from the desktop, and it all ends up streaming around the house in glorious surround sound. Um, so to actually think that I might have something on my head that will actually cue um, will, will program Spotify to choose some music for me that's actually going to help me enhance the mood I'm in or whatever. All that stuff sounds kind of interesting. Though equally, a bit overwhelming when you consider data security and privacy and stuff. When you've got information flowing directly from your brain, yeah, that's a step further than somebody spying on you typing your password. So, you get to a site. Now, what was my password again? And before you've remembered it, the headset has sent the name up into the cloud. Oh, yes, of course, it was Fred. Right. Anyway, moving on. So more, yeah, the Week in XR is also a podcast. You can get it at Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube, and I will be coming up to the YouTube version in a minute. So, forbes.com, and this is Charlie Fink, the Week in XR, and I think that was let's give you the date there. I think that was Friday. I think that was Friday that came up anyway. Not long ago, so we must be getting near the end now. Right, moving on to another favourite of ours, vrscout.com, vrscout.com. And this is another new input idea. It's called Tap ID, and it used bone conduction to deliver a better typing experience in VR. Now, if you think you've heard the name bone conduction before, it's because of in recent years there have been a number of earphones or earbuds coming out that actually use bone conduction, and you can usually tell which they are because instead of having a little thing that fits in your ear or like a big can that fits over your ear, these actually rest on the bone behind your ear, and it vibrate. The music comes through as vibration in your bone, but of course it's all where the eardrum is anyway. It's just not in the whole of your ear, if you see what I mean. And a lot of people rate the quality of bone conduction sound pretty high. So bone conduction, as we say, has already got a proven worth. And the idea here is that you will be able to use a similar system for typing in VR without having to worry about putting up your headset or whatever to see your keyboard. A lot of people say, "Well, you can't, I'm in VR, I can't type." People have said that to me, and so yeah, well, fine. They don't want to break the immersion to get to an actual real keyboard, or maybe they're in one of the standalone things where there is no keyboard, and maybe it's too awkward to pull up a virtual keyboard. So this would allow somebody in the VR headset to literally tap on a surface, a hard surface, obviously, and the effect of the bone conduction of or your 10 fingers or whatever would be recorded, and it'd be read like a keyboard. I imagine it would take a bit of practice. It's like when you first learn to type, you do plonk, 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 and even that's faster than you normally would. But over time, you get used to it. And so anybody who actually knows their keyboard, as it were, fairly well, would obviously be able to type um, without a keyboard and still have a fair idea of where their finger is landing. Anyway, yeah, it's another thing that might happen. Um, it's from the Department of Computer Science at ETH Zurich in Switzerland. And it's a set of wristbands called Tap ID. And obviously, you can see that there are the wristbands that interpolate everything else. And those there you've got a human being's fingers, not surprisingly, and then you've got a schematics of basically showing how it's all working. Pretty obvious, really. Not saying I could build it, but obvious. And yeah, we have a little film here. Let's just see if we can get.
Virtual reality immerses users in rich environments that can be manipulated through gestures. To avoid fatigue in virtual offices, input cannot exceed short and quick gestures, whereas true productivity scenarios require prolonged interaction. In this project, we move all interaction to surfaces which provide passive haptic feedback, as well as an opportunity for rest during interaction. Building on users' familiarity with touch devices to interact with digital content, we bring such natural interaction to virtual reality. The key component of our approach is Tap ID, a novel wristband device that embeds a dual sensor design in its flexible strap. Tap ID not only reliably detects rapid touch events on the surface, but also robustly identifies the finger used for touch input through a machine learning classifier. Tap ID then fuses this tap detection and finger identification with the hand poses tracked by the headset to trigger input at the correct fingertip location in VR. Our system plugs right into a virtual desktop environment where multiple screens surround the user and afford spatial interaction for text entry, as well as for fast and precise alignment operations through cursor control. In addition,
Oh, oh, there was a bit more. Never mind. I should have played that instead of trying to explain it myself, shouldn't I? Really, but yeah, you get the idea. You can find that, including the video that is with it, at vrscout.com. And obviously, you can click through the video to get a version at YouTube. And we've got a few little animated Giphy typey things there. Quite a lot of information here about, typing number input using the system for piano.
Yeah, yeah.
So something for musicians there too. Okay, vrscout.com for that one. Right, moving on to another site. I don't think I can't remember ever being here before. I probably have. It's called techbullion.com. That's
Yeah, I remember that.
TEC.
Yep.
Oh, we have been here, have
Yep.
we? Right, okay. TECHBULLION.com. And the question asked here is will virtual reality change how we use social media? Um, well, yeah. If you're in if you're in virtual reality or virtual worlds, then it is a form of social media. It's not You're not really changing. It is a form of social media. It's not changing an existing form. It is simply an alternative to, I don't know, instant messaging. Very big alternative, mind you. Yeah, so since VR lets people escape their homes while staying safe, creating a VR-specific social media platform seems perfect for the post-pandemic era, right?
Hmm.
While both VR and new social media platforms have grown immensely over the last few years, combining the two is a bit more complex than you'd first think. Um, is it? I mean, you can judge for yourself this article. It's a worthy article. It puts it all in its place. Arguably, going back, I mean, this is our Second Life promo week, isn't it, in a way? Going back 18 years ago, we've had Second Life for 18 years ago, and actually, you know, combining the virtual world and um, social networking, as it were, has been. I won't say it was his objective all along, but it's been doing that, for a good 15 years at least. Um, So, I mean, the main concern here really will be with what they nowadays call VR, which is referring to the hardware, of course, and the headsets and stuff. And quite a lot of the social worlds, and by which I mean social um, virtual environments, not Second Life actually, but places like Science Space and Vicadia and Tivoli and stuff, they all allow you the option of using a headset or just using a flat screen, but their core function and beyond entertainment and stuff is social networking. Even here in Sansar, which these days promotes itself as an events space, is still a social network in that the users here know each other. James and I meet here to do this show, don't we? That's not like just coming to an event and attending it with sort of creating, partaking in it. And there's plenty of,
Right, right.
social events, campfire event, around the campfire discussions and things like that, which aren't any, you couldn't really call them anything else other than social networking. They just happen to have a visual component in the form of avatars, and that is extended further if you're in a headset and are equipped for tactile stuff as well. Um, so it all fits together. So whether this question is even relevant, I don't really know. It'd be more, will social media change to embrace virtual reality? It might be the best way of looking at it. And certainly the likes of the God Emperor Zuckerberg do seem to think that will be the case because they've been aiming to turn their own social networks upside down, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So
And it
take
suffers from the
bullion.
same problem of walled gardens. Even our instant messaging programs cannot instant message with each other. So if it's really going to be social, I should be able to message with anybody in any platform.
I would agree. I keep looking here for, I've got an all-in-one program that puts all my instant messaging accounts, Messenger, Skype, Telegram, um, everything except Signal into one interface. But I've still got to change tabs. If I get
Mm-hmm.
if I get a call on the Skype tab, I'd have to put that on pause while I switch to the well, I call them tabs. They are tabs. They're buttons, but they're also tabs. To reply to somebody on Messenger. So fortunately, I don't get it's inundated by much. It's very rare that I get two things happening at once. But as you say, I love that compacted format, so everything's at my fingertips in one place, but that is still not the same as having one service that actually combines all the accounts, which is what you'd want. And it's the same in virtual worlds. You have an avatar in a walled garden like Second Life, and despite the similarities and the fact that technically it probably would be possible with quite a lot of work, you are not going to be able to move your avatar from Second Life to OpenSim or from OpenSim into Second Life. Many OpenSim users would love the idea of taking their avatars to Second Life just to do a bit of shopping before they go home.
Right, right.
Um, Likewise, a lot of educators in Second Life would not really mind. They were actually begging the Lindens for it the other day in a session. A lot of educators would actually be quite happy to teleport over to OpenSim for a close, a wall garden, for to hold a class where only their own students can get into their classroom. And the interoperability between jumping between the two would be something everybody would probably love. But of course, it's not going to happen because the intellectual property of not the platform so much as the content, in Second Life is sort of belongs to the users, but at the end of the day, it actually belongs to Linden Lab, and they don't want anything going out of their walled garden into another metaverse, another platform, without getting a cut of it. And also, the people in OpenSim, they don't want to risk the idea that you might be able to go into Second Life and lose stuff from your inventory and the way it works there. So there's obstacles at every point, even though in some cases, um, interoperability is not insurmountable, but it takes the willpower too, and walled gardens are very unlikely um, to go with that, unless of course they buy out the competition, and then interoperability comes as they kind of absorb it. This is Facebook's tactic, for example. You know, buy up everything that is unique, new. If you can't buy it, copy it and do one of your own, and make sure that your ecosystem has got a version of everything that interoperates together.
Didn't that used to be
And
Microsoft's tactic?
it did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it did in a sense, actually. I mean, I mean, Microsoft operating system would not exist if it wasn't for Bill Gates copying Apple.
Right.
you know, for a long time, Windows was simply a bunch of pixels on the screen hiding Microsoft DOS. It wasn't an object-oriented operating system. It was a load of pixels you could click on to launch programs, but they were still launching in DOS Windows underneath. These days, it's a bit. It has a faster bit, but for years, they couldn't compete with the Mac because the Mac, everything in the Mac was, the operating system was entirely object orientated. When you launched an app, you were actually launching the app. You weren't launching a shortcut to it. You know, somehow then mounted it. It was a very odd world. Um, yeah, and times change. Yeah, of course. I mean, Windows now is principally a service, and the server software for industry really. Um, they're not really well. I suppose they are sort of seen as a competitor to. I mean, in the news this week, it's really funny. There used to be an ad where they had the PC guy and the Mac guy,
Hmm.
and I think it was Mac that launched the actual thing, So the PC guy was struggling around in a sort of mess, and in the companion window, the guy on the Mac was just whizzing away like a breeze. Well, Intel have apparently hired the guy who used to be the Mac man,
Oh, okay.
to do a new campaign that actually tries to reverse the idea, and apparently they're getting very scared about the new M1 Macs, basically. Competing with Intel, and Intel are falling over themselves. And they're getting heavy criticism because a lot of the stuff they're firing off at Apple is like fake news or fake information. They're they're carefully wrapping up little anecdotes to try and imply that the Mac M1's processors are absolutely no good compared with Intel's, and everybody is unanimously saying bullshit.
Hmm.
To even do the campaign appears to be something of a waste of money, but they're going through it. So anyway, that's the rabbit hole we didn't go down to. Yeah. So as I say, this to post is at techbullion, techbullion.com. And then I've said about that. Now, again, we're about back to advanced haptics here. And this is a bit different. This is another one that came today. It's about a quest for prosthetic retinas, not contact lenses. Right? That's the other thing we're talking about. This is actually prosthetic retinas, and they're moving towards human trials with a virtual reality assist. This article is at techcrunch.com, techcrunch.com. And the idea is to actually make artificial retinas that people with visual impairments will be able to have a kind of, I suppose the word is fitted. Certainly more complex than just putting, a contact lens in. The possibility is creeping closer to reality year by year, and while the latest advancements takes a very different and promising approach, using tiny dots that convert light to electricity, and virtual reality has helped show that it could be a viable path forward. These are photovoltaic cough cough retinal prostheses, and they come from the school Polytechnic School, Federal Polytechnic School in Lausanne, which is Switzerland again, isn't it? Yeah. Um, Okay, early prosthetics were created decades ago, and they've got the basic ideas: a camera outside the body, maybe on a pair of glasses, sends a signal over a wire to a tiny electrode array micro electrode array, which consists of tiny electrodes that pierce the non-functioning retinal surface to simulate the working cells. These things must be incredibly small if they don't damage the existing retina. That's all. I'm really not sure. I don't even like water in my eyes, let alone the idea of this. But you never know. You never know. I mean, for somebody who's literally, this is eyesight for the blind almost, or it could be,
Well,
from what
I'm
I
excited about
understand
it
of
too.
these.
My retinas are falling
Yeah,
off, so
yeah,
as
exactly.
I
Well,
get
if I
older,
do,
right? Right.
if I suddenly find myself not being able to see anything at all, then yeah, I'll have prosthetic retinas,
Put
please.
Yep.
Complete with an Apple Retina screen. Yeah. Since when did they use the word retina for anything other than retinas? But never mind. Um, yes, so thousands of tiny photovoltaic dots. There you are. You like the idea of that, do you, James?
Oh yeah, I think I may be a client.
Yeah. Thousands of tiny photovoltaic dots
Mm-hmm.
stuffed in your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a link to a paper discussing it, and also the article goes on about technical stuff about what it is, how it does it, or will do it, I should say. So TechCrunch.com for that one. Um, the UK newspaper in the called the Guardian here in the UK has a post here. Um, Lockdown boredom drives UK video games market to a £7 billion record high. This is a lot of money. A lot of the UK's economy has lost a considerable amount of money, but the gaming market is not one of them.
Yep.
um, I would dare to say that they've probably made more money than they should, because it's sad to say that, you know, um, parts of the economy that have not been affected by COVID are actually booming. And in some cases, manufacturers have been running short of things and stuff like that. But they've also sadly used the popularity of stuff to increase prices. You think, the more you manufacture something, the more demand there is for something. It's usually the case that the more the price comes down. Unfortunately, during COVID, it's the exact opposite. You know, because it's becoming more and more essential during COVID, it's an excuse for them to put the price up and up. And everything from fuel, to technological gadgets, communications, you name it. The price is going up because we can't live without it, and it's not something lockdown is making scarce. Quite the opposite. Anyway, so yeah, gaming has been huge, and I mention that because there is always a big parallel between gaming and what we used to call virtual worlds. I mean, many games, big games like World of Warcraft, for example, um, they they're so big that there are entire regions in them that are really just social virtual worlds where you don't need spaceships and you don't need to kill everybody and you don't need to be in a guild. You can just go in and have a meeting, which is a lot of the time what we do in Second Life or here in Sansa. So you can't write off the games as being games as opposed to sort of social worlds. There's a great deal of overlapping, and also the technology that generates the engines that games are also to run on. Basically the virtual worlds like Second Life and Air.com, the first ones around, wouldn't have been around at all if they weren't dependent on the kind of engines that were already sophisticated enough to run games. Of course, ever since then they've been getting better and better, and it's sad that something like Second Life, as I hinted at earlier, it's nearly 20 years old, and the game engines that run games have got better and better and better. Second Life, for example, has got better. They've gone to great lengths to improve it in, steps up a ladder kind of thing. But they're never going to catch up with the 20-year gap with the advancement of technology. They'll only be able to make their own technology better and better, if you see what I mean. So, but the games are not to be ignored. And many people who are in virtual worlds got there because of games. And other people who started in virtual worlds have actually moved on to games because much as somebody may, create a wonderful game in OpenSim or in Second Life or in Science Base, um, if you actually get into playing those games, you will suddenly realize that it has been fun, but I can get a better experience by opting for an actual branded game, as opposed to a game in another platform. So etc. etc. Anyway, the money is booming. 7 billion UK pounds last year in 2020. Oh, and compared with 2019, the year before the pandemic, that figure was only 1.6 billion. Now, 1.6 billion isn't to be laughed at, but the increase from 1.6 to 7 is huge. It really is. One thing that will make the Chancellor of the Exchequer rather happy, I suspect. That was from The Guardian. TheGuardian.com, TheGuardian.com. And if I recall, that was today's Guardian or yesterday's. Certainly something I picked up today. Right, moving on. Another post at Forbes.com. This isn't Charlie Fink. This is John Coates, another frequent Twitterer. Um, and as I said, there is a theme here this week. We've got prosthetic retinas and everything else, but now we've got Mojo Vision is going to power its smart contact lenses with an external computing pack. Now, this is interesting because I've always thought that maybe contact lenses is something I might wear. I mean, after all, they're better than headsets, and if I want to hear, I can do it through my earpods, yeah, contact lenses will be fairly good. If they're dense enough, you can actually go from transparent to opaque, so you can have a virtual environment and an AR environment mode. If you've got, as we said, thousands of micro bits or whatever that make them up. Anyway, Mojo Vision is you'll get these will be the high density contact lenses, but they will connect to an external CPA and GPU. That's a computer processor and graphics processor. Presumably, the obvious external kit is going to be your mobile phone. I'm rather hoping that when Apple actually come out with something, it will be like glasses that actually use my phone as the operating system and just connect to it like my Apple Watch does. That would be idea, if you will. And obviously, Mojo here are thinking the same way. They don't really mention about anything like platforms. It doesn't like say these lenses are for Windows only or for Mac only or for presumably you wouldn't wear them inside a headset. They think this may be and mobile. The processor mobile is using it. Um, it's not far out or the next thing for Sinclair. They see mobile as the current dominant computing platform and smart glasses as the probable successor, with visors and Oculus style headsets as intermediary stages. And hundreds of millions of people need vision correction today already, and 140 million wear contact lenses globally anyway. So they're onto a high-tech version of a very large existing market, basically. So you can read about this at Forbes.com. Yet again, Forbes.com. Awful lot of technology articles there these days. Right, now moving on to something that featured, we had a little preview clip at the beginning of the show. South by Southwest was the other big event this week. And this is a post at a site called screenanarchy.com, as in movies, I guess. SCREENANARCHY.com. And like VR but virtual, they call it. And yeah, it's quite an interesting kind of review. As I said, the stuff on show there has been acclaimed, but more importantly, the actual online environment in which they presented it has been equally acclaimed. Acclaimed, sorry. This is where they're looking at basically the highlights of a chock full of interesting works. And the highlights, as they're shown here, are just screenshots and short paragraphs about the things that they were impressed with. But it's a nice roundup of quite a few little things there. Twitter. I suspect that within a week or two we will find that there are actually YouTube videos of all the events, panels, and exhibitions and everything from South by Southwest. That has always been the case, even when it was a real life event. They wait a couple of weeks. Obviously people pay a lot of money to be there, and they have done with the virtual one. But they'll wait a couple of weeks, and then you'll probably find all the archives of what happened will be up. And no doubt we will definitely bring the links to you, if nothing else, when they happen. So this little roundup is at screenanarchy.com, SCREENANARCHY.com. And moving on, we're on a site called makeuseof.com. So MAKEUSEOF.com. And they asked the question, is virtual reality really the future of everything? 3 hours ago. Yeah, we're getting up to date here. They proved their viability across a range of disciplines, and here's what lies ahead for emerging technologies. If you read makeuseof.com, it's because you want to find things you can make use of, and they're telling you what you can do too. Obviously, Facebook get their ending up there, and complete with the embedded video of the Infinite Office, which is Facebook's thing we have seen before. You can click through to YouTube there if you want to watch it again. And look at VR market, then VR for fitness, healthcare, remote work. And we did have a similar post to this. It must have been a couple of weeks ago that was literally going down, all the categories or whatever. But it wasn't actually this one. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is a sort of syndicated half copy of the other one. Right, so that's makeuseof.com, MAKEUSEOF.com. And this is a site to follow if you're an educator. I've been prompted to bring it up today because of the conference in Second Life. Lorelli here, who's authored this article, actually is I don't know if I think it wasn't this year. I think last year or the year before she did a keynote out of the same thing in Second Life. But anyway, they have a group called Educators in VR. And this is a list of their weekly events. And the site you want to go to is simply educatorsinvr.com, EDUCATORSINVR.com. And there's another one where when they refer to VR, they actually tend to be thinking of headset land, but their main function is in AltSpace VR, which is a Microsoft-owned platform, which it's a bit more cartoony than something like Second Life, but it's becoming quite popular for meetings and education and stuff, despite simple avatars and what have you. And they use that for their regular meetings and stuff like that. Yeah, this is really a roundup of their events. They all tend to be in AltSpace VR. I think they have some in a couple of the other platforms too, but they're kind of sort of, it's like a tribal thing. They've settled in AltSpace VR in the same way that other people settle in OpenSim or settle in Second Life. Make a note of that, educatorsinvr.com. You can't tell from that the mode I'm in. You can probably get an RSS feed for all their site here. Most of the stuff they have here is a bit too educational focused for me to be, um, using it, posting all the while, but nevertheless a very good site. And if you're interested in AltSpace VR, maybe a very good jumping up point for their researcher meetings or educational world tours. Tuesday is their monthly educational world tour. Tomorrow's research team meeting. Coaching and personal development later in the week. Students Wednesday, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so educatorsinvr.com. Moving on down my list. There can't be much more to go here. Right, we are now back to the thing I brought out earlier. This is a post of Forbes yet again. This is specifically about that Neurosity Crown, a portable and wearable EEG device that senses your brain waves. Um, and it's another basically report on it. Probably got a bit more in this post than anything else. You can pre-order it, by the way, already, and they reckon it will be shipping in May. And as I say, it's $900 US. So it's not quite a Kickstarter. It's just not quite ready yet. Um, Thanks to COVID-19 quarantines, you'll only look like an escapee from a Star Trek convention in the comfort of your home office, and you won't have to explain the crown to your smoking co-workers. That's the good thing, they say. Which, for everybody working at home, that's fair enough, just stick that thing on and yeah, I mean, you could go on webcam with it and everybody saying, hey, wow, I like that kit, mate.
Right.
Okay, so Forbes.com again for that one. And now we're moving on to AR Post. We usually have a few from them. I think this is the only one this week. ARPOST.co, just C-O, not com, just co. No region on that, just co. The role of virtuality in the fight against racial inequity, not inequality, inequity. Well, similar things on there, but never mind.
Nothing different.
Virtuality has been moving mountains across a myriad of verticals. In the past few years, they're seeing VR as a force for social good. And REM 5 is a Minnesota based company with a virtual exhibition space called One City, Two Realities. And it illustrates and educates people on the realities of racial inequity and inequalities. They've got it twice there across the nation. Yeah, eminently worthy project there, I would say. March 21st will be. That's today. Right. Oh, well, today, believe it or not, it's the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. I should have known that, really, shouldn't
Wow.
I?
Ah.
So we'll get a little bit of a plug in for that today. I should have had that at the top of the show, really, but yeah, I did not know that. I should have known that, really. The theme this year is youth standing up against racism. And we're seeing a new wave of activism and social movements which rely heavily on technology to promote social, economic, as well as environmental change. So, yeah, do check that out for sure. I'm not sure whether this is just information about the virtual. Yeah, well, it is a virtual exhibit, so presumably for the links you will, you can actually get to it too. And I would thank them for pointing out that today's the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. I wish them luck. I'm not sure it can be done in a day, but um, every day that goes by that we try is a day towards a better future.
Ooh, nicely said.
Yeah, exactly. Right, moving on again, and this time we're going to a well-known site called Mashable. And I used to be addicted to this site when it first
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Pete, somebody. I used to know him quite well. He was a Londoner who started this many years ago. I don't know where he is now. It's a huge operation these days. The Adventure Lab, as they call it, they're building building the VR gig economy for the future performers. Well, I'm sure Sansar here might have something to say about that. As would your Robloxes, your Fortnites, and just about everybody else. Not to even mention ones like Science Space and Second Life that actually do have real life performers coming in as avatars now and again. Unfortunately, they can't support the size of audience that most of them will want. But anyway, this one, they're talking about having a holiday with 3 close friends during COVID and a virtual holiday, as it were, using Quest headsets and stuff. And this was. Now they've got a clip here about Dr. Crumb's School for Disobedient Pets. I have to.
You need to work together. Find the metal. Find the metal by working together. Got it? Okay, you got it.
Yeah, it's only 50 seconds. It's like a song, isn't it? Let's work together. Assortment of strange avatars being promoted there. Anyway, days after the session, they went to a session and it cost them $99 in total and can accommodate 8 players at once. And one friend went on to so far as to inquire about and then apply for a hosting gig with the company responsible called Adventure Lab, and the links are there. Um, The name is not familiar yet, but as VR begins its steady climb towards mass market appeal on the backs of affordable standalone headsets, so could the brand's household name recognition. And I had actually heard of Adventure Lab in some context before, but there again, I would have done, but it wasn't particularly. Um, uh, didn't sort of ring a bell about anything much. Anyway, they've got various examples and things there. It's a very interesting read and nothing else, and lots of embedded videos to click on. Right, now moving on, I've got 3 more posts. These ones are actually at all the posts I've just covered. If you want the direct links, you didn't catch me reading them out, or you want a link that would take you to the exact page, just follow my Twitter stream at twitter.com/Malburns, Malburns. The next 3 and only the next 3 are posts that are in the Twitter stream at twitter.com/MetaWorldNews, which is more about virtual spaces, social spaces. Our former colleagues over at Hypergrid Business have a post this week about OpenSim. It's basically another roundup post. OpenSim area has hit another record, although active users are actually down slightly. David Karuki's roundup here. Maria Karloff is still posting a little bit, but very much now. She seems to rely on him to do all the roundups. There are now well, look at this. There are nearly 95,537. I mean, that's just what 450 short of 1,000 of 100,000, right? Yeah, yeah. Public open sim grids. So there are 95,500 regions on the public open sim. Record high. Biggest growth was the commercial Citywells grid, and other grids that gained were OS grid, which is the non-commercial. It's almost called, a lot of people call it the developers grid because it's the original sort of hub grid for the people developing OpenSim. A new region, Open Maniland. That is a new region on me. I haven't got that in my Discord server, so check that one out myself. Enchanted Grid and Amaryllis Grid were the big winners with new regions this week. And yeah, some grids, Tag Grid did not release any numbers, which is usually a bad sign. And OS Grid itself fell by 1,340 users, that is, not regions. Yep. And separately, not included here, but separately, Outworlds, of which Metaworld's grid was one, although it's not online at the moment, is up to a total of nearly 5,000 other grids, 4,933 to be honest. So, yeah, they do point out that when they did the tally, there were only 361 online at that moment. But this is actually a bit like the census. This morning I filled out something that happens every 10 years in Britain here. It's called the census, and for the first time it was online this morning. So I just went online, answered all the questions, and yeah, you get fined a very large amount of money if you don't fill it in. It's considered really crucial. You know, it's anonymous, so to speak. Well, they have ways of knowing whether you submitted or not, but you know, but it's used to measure, you know, statistics and plans and things, for the future, where they need a comprehensive database of very simple facts and figures like who live where and what's on and it's all the census takes place today. All the information has to be accurate as Sunday 21st of March. So I think when they do their robot crawling of and stuff like that. It depends on the day they do it, because especially with OpenSim, there are a lot of grids that are down and then up again, down again. And it's not like the yo-yo commercial grid we used to call it, which never knew what it was doing. It's just people run these on their home servers and things, or even home machines. So if they power down for the night, their region, their grid is offline. They power up the next day, and while they're online, their grid is online. They can have people visit them while they're awake and working, so to speak. So that's the way it all works. Right, they give you a link for the Outworlds statistics, and then we've got the top grids here. I was looking. No, I think I did check this. I was looking out to see if the Great Canadian Grid, which is now back on the hypergrid and again, is actually going to make a dent there because when it was going, up to a couple of years ago, it was one of the biggest grids around. But I guess it's going to take time before it starts making a dent again. German World Grid is the fastest growing grid. Discovery Grid come in third. I'll certainly concur with Discovery Grid. My Hypergrid uses a server on Discord. Whoever's at Discovery Grid keeps posting in that channel all the while, more than any other channel, I think. Yeah. Oh yeah, a little post on the Kitely market information and Tag Grid, which is another newer marketplace, competing with Kitely, I guess. Neverworld Grid. No. Quite a lot of information here, despite the headline sounding like it's just a bunch of statistics. It's very typical of the hypergrid business. They actually have a post within posts, and you click on the posting, it's a short item about one thing, and there's out to be a roundup of a whole load of things. So, hypergridbusiness.com, hypergridbusiness.com. And moving along to uploadvr.com. And here we are, another roundup. Again, you'll find a link to this at Metaworld News on Twitter. The 10 most amazing and relaxing VR chat worlds to visit. VR chat is another social kind of virtual world. You can get to it on screen as well as in headsets. And this is a roundup of the 10 most fascinating places you can go while you're enjoying it. Here it does say PC or Quest. I presume you can get it on the standard screen because PC there could actually mean a tethered PC and headset. Hard to know. But anyway, an interesting sounding roundup of locations you might want to visit, which of course is what it's all about at the end of the day. So this is uploadvr.com. And
and VR chat does have a 2D interface, so that's good.
Yeah. So so a lot of nice places to visit there if you get fed up with the platforms you're already on, or you're a fan of VR chat for that matter. Right, and my final post, the very final one here, before we blabber our heads off and up. Microsoft's social VR platform, Altspace VR, which I just mentioned, of course, because the educators in NetVR hang out there, has been revamped for improved event hosting. They've got renewed emphasis on event hosting, which is always been possible to hang out and chat. They're honing in on use case where users come to the virtual world to see specific events hosted by creators. We mentioned Roblox and Rec Room and Fortnite and stuff other, these big worlds, hitting the market now, all spending money on getting user content, all focusing on the idea of being a live events venue. And obviously, Altspace VR, or maybe Microsoft, who knows, coming up, trumps in the same area, really. Altspace was one of the first social VR platforms to grace the modern era. And it raised more than 10 million in venture capital well before the first consumer headsets actually came out. But the company nearly bit the dust back in 27, but was saved in a surprise acquisition by Microsoft, which at the time said it intended to build it into the preeminent AR VR community. That hasn't quite come to pass with things like Rec Room, VR chat, and big screen appearing to draw significantly more users. But they're now leaning into a use case that's naturally been developing on the platform over time. Creator hosted events. And there you are. God, isn't that such a realistic avatar there? Yes, I mean, if I met that bloke in the street, I would remember him, wouldn't I? Couldn't help but remember him
If you remember that,
if you
yep,
met somebody like that in the street,
in the street, yep.
Yeah, you'd remember them. The real Wall Street, I mean. Don't think it's possible, but there you go. Anyway, all about Old Space VR there. So, we have now completed the links. So, before I move on to just a quick summary of some other videos, your thoughts there, James, if any?
I had a thought and I lost it, so that's probably
Right.
just as well.
Well, maybe it will come back if I just scroll through here.
It would take us down a rabbit hole, I'm sure.
Yeah, over in my Slack thing, I save embedded videos that I don't necessarily. Well, I usually send them. I toot them, which means they go to Mastodon like tweets, and they get added to our private Discord server. Um, but they're quite interesting. I'm going to start. The earliest one for this week I've got is Tuesday, 16th of March. It's the YouTube account you want is Upload VR. UPLOAD and it's the early week edition of the VR download. This is the one where they look at um, serious stuff rather than games. Apple's Thimble, Facebook Staff Surge, Pico Neo 3, and the new 5 trackers. And yeah, that's. I'm not loading these, by the way, into. Tell you what, actually, I'm going to load the first one in just so you've got something to look at, but I'm not going to do it for all of them. Oops. Quite what we intended to do there. Hang on. Okay. Also, at YouTube, the account number you need, or the name you need, is Between Realities. This is episode 12 of season 3, which is came out on Friday, I think it was. Again, it's a sort of podcast, video cast kind of thing. You probably know, you know the guys. You've seen this before. And their guest on this occasion is a chap called Sebastian Hang, who is has a popular VR YouTube channel called MRTV. And this MRTV has a Discord server as well, if I recall. Right, moving down my list here. You saw earlier on the post about Carl Fei, China Tracy, Chinese artist. There is at YouTube. Interesting. Um, well, actually, I think this was embedded in the article. I think so. Basically, it's yes, it's the one where we couldn't hear it that much, and I said you'd have to click through yourself to get to it. Um, so you know what? It's not going to take too long. I am actually going to load in, not necessarily to play them, but just so I can give you the exact subscriber to go to. Here we are. So Cal Fei's avatars at Art21. The subscriber you need is Art21. So it's ART and then the letters 21. And that has to film with China Tracy talking about her experiences with Second Life. Okay, now if you go to again the next account, actually, the reason we've got quite a lot this week, Friday, 19th of March, is the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education Conference. I've only got here the ones that are of particular interest to us, in fact. You close these, just to give you an idea. The account you want, as you can see here, is VWBPE. Um, right, this particular one is a dystopia rising, a learning portal to the metaverse. As you, this is what the breakout sessions. You can see there's sort of small crowd of avatars and presentations. The main events were in the big auditorium. Right. Um, okay, moving on. Just another one that is not VWPPE. We've been to this one before too. It's actually VR Toronto, VRTO Virtual Reality, comma Toronto. Nothing like a short title, is there, to have for a YouTube account?
Yep.
But anyway, Christiana Ella and Natalie Dumont are on this one. Not quite that familiar with the other three good women there, but basically it's it's a Zoom type call recorded thing. VTRO Toronto, women and representation. Women and representation in immersive experiences. The fifth wave. So yeah, just great conversation there, basically, and um, by women, but not necessarily just for women. If you catch my drift. Right. So get some of those out of the way. Um, Okay, I really have to promote this one from yesterday. Again, this is a Virtual's Best Practices in Education clip. And
Who's that guy?
bloke,
Who is that
who's
guy?
that guy indeed? There's something about the fact where I still have my, I frequently pop in quickly and check up on things in Second Life, often using Radagast text client on the desktop, so I'd never see my avatar. But I think this is the first time I actually had to dig up a human avatar instead of my beloved cat avatar in Second Life for the first time in donkey's years. And the only, somebody, I was changing into various swans, and somebody in the conference said, "Oh, they like that avatar." So I thought, "I'll stick with it."
Okay.
This is actually a variation of it. I used to be, have a default avatar in a purple suit, and I got
Yeah,
a name for
yeah.
the purple suit. And this was some kind of halfway job where I grew long hair and a bit of facial hair, and I put on a hat, and I've even got a news tag for Metaworld News. Can
You've
you
got
see
the
it up
news
there on
hat. Yep.
yeah. And a microphone. Most people didn't have microphones, but despite the microphone, people had a problem hearing me, as you'll find out if you listen to the beginning of this. But anyway, I'll promote it anyway. This is just with the other VWBPE, and they've got a load of films up there. The reason this one is of me is because I was honoured to be interviewing Spiff Whitfield. There he is, um, who is Andrew Wheelock in the real world. And he was a recipient of sort of a prestigious Thinkerer, not Thinker, but Thinkerer award 5 years ago. And I did this last year too. My job was to actually go in and interview, do a catch-up interview with the recipients 5 years later. So from 2016, sorry, up to today, we talked about a whole load of things. And although I wasn't there, it was a bit past my bedtime. Getting old these days, you know. um, uh, the award ceremony this year closed it out, and this year's Thinker Award, I should say, went to Lysenna. I
Wisdom
call her
seeker.
wisdom.
Yeah.
I call her Wisdom Seeker. Anyway, I mean, I think she's also known as Lynn and Lysenna and whatever. But yeah, she's known as Wisdom Seeker, and a wonderful lady. We've had her interviewed in the In World Review here back when we were doing that in OpenSim.
Yep.
One thing that I thought was actually quite nice was Spiff here, of course, is equally active in OpenSim as well as Second Life, as is Lysenna, whose islands in OpenSim is just as important as the ones in Second Life. And it's quite interesting. I was actually doing a rough catch up. I couldn't give you the exact details, but it does seem like a lot of people who've won the awards and had a lot of focus in Second Life are actually equally active in OpenSim, which
Oh
was
yeah. Yep.
for me because as soon as they say, "Oh, no, I'm doing this in OpenSim," I think, "Oh yeah, well that's definitely interesting." My eyes light up even more than Second Life, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's me talking to him, and a few sound problems at the very beginning, and in fact, a bit halfway through it got too loud. But if you bear with it, very interesting talk. Wasn't it, James?
It
Or was
was.
it?
I
Was
thought it was great.
it was a good it was a good interview, wasn't it? Despite the
Mm-hmm.
sound. Yeah.
Yep.
There we go. Oh, see, he concurs.
I
Yeah,
concur.
that's
Yep.
enough. He concurs. Yeah. Okay.
If I don't concur, I won't get paid.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Alexa just woke up and told me something. I don't
What?
know what it was. Well, she's the other end of the room. I couldn't hear
Okay.
her.
All right.
In World Review notification community meter. Oh, I got all my. Sorry, I forgot to kill my notifications this week, didn't I? Right. Okay. Infinite Office. That was another video that was embedded on one of our posts. The basically showing the view of a future virtual reality office through headset view. Um, Also, yes, this was. I don't think it was today, but I posted it today. Um, there's
Has to be really,
this
really slight.
this is a new. Oops.
No?
Another sort of Zoom call type show with discussion. This is the F Reality podcast. Episode 183. God, there's enough of them now, too. For this one, you want F Reality VR podcast. Again, that's on YouTube. Most of this particular one, they went into the Vive facial tracker and the wrist devices we've been covering. So, yeah, interesting roundup of stuff, actually, technology wise, as well as, of course, a bit about gaming. I think most of these sites rely on gaming coverage to get their audience.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And following that, we've got Between Realities, um, which just putting away the other stuff here. And yeah, season 3, episode 13 with Kyle Render. Um, Unless I have this twice. No. So I thought I had it twice for some reason. Um, Come on, where are you, button? There you are. Right. Another one with a long intro. I should mention that the VWBP films, at the moment at least, are unedited. So quite a lot of them have a lot of silent footage at the beginning. Don't make the mistake in thinking there's a sound failure.
And failing
You
Koromal,
just
he'll get on that pretty quickly. So he's usually very good
yeah,
about
yeah.
editing those. Yep.
Yeah, you basically just have to wait till, currently, if you go to one now, you just have to wait till it
Wait
starts, sort
until
of
he
thing.
recovers from the intensity of, of the conference.
Yes, exactly. Poor old Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's, sort of, we're a limited number of people, including Kevin,
Yeah.
involved in
A
these
small
things. So
group actually. Yeah.
it does take time,
Yep.
to get all the necessary jobs done, as it were.
Yep.
But Kevin's taken to the video side of things, not the streaming so much as the management of his film library and everything. He's taken to that these days. He always wanted to, I know. So, yeah. Right. Okay. So this one is Between Realities. Again, it's a weekly show. They didn't have a guest. Oh, yes, they did have a guest this week, Kyle Render. I guess he slides into that lovely background screen about halfway through. Yeah, there he is. Right, so yeah, I love the presentation of this show. I mean, it's not my favourite show, absolutely, but I just love their set. The components. They got a bit of virtual set. They got a bit of real life. They got a bit of inset, and they make it all come together like a cabin of a spaceship or something. Sort of. So I rather do admire what they've done with that actually. Sort of thing I would do, but I suspect they've got a lot more people behind the scenes helping them do it.
Well, we're not that far
Um,
off. I mean, we've got our screens over here. You know.
uh, Actually, no, it's just I don't even remember when the guest comes on. That screen behind them
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just come on; it slides in, you know, like a curtain on a stage. And they're in separate places, so they've been green screened into the same place. If you see what I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. It's just seamlessly well done. But yeah, um, yeah. We will improve ours. We will improve ours. We will have a refresh sometime this year. We already refreshed recently by coming to
Yeah,
town, so I'll say.
we did.
We're not that far behind on the refresh front, are we?
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's one more here is this is this week in XR, the podcast. He says the podcast. Yeah. This is Charlie Fink again. Now the Forbes post is called This Week. This week in XR. This is simply called This Week in XR podcast, and their guest is Sinan Al Bey, who's I'm talking about Facebook's XR future. What you want here is This Week in XR is the name of this podcast. It is, despite being Charlie Fink, it's not. He's a Forbes columnist, of course. His column in Forbes is separate from this podcast. I mean, obviously, if there's interesting news, they overlap a bit, but this is more involved with like guests and interviewing people and stuff. So this week in XR at YouTube for this one, and yeah, not, oh, oh, never mind. I can't find a bit where you see a photo of their guests, so forget that. Right, okay. VWBP, there was another one, 12 Reasons Why Virtual Worlds are Still Better Than Social VR Worlds. That was quite an interesting talk. Again, that's at the VWBPE channel. And also another one featuring our friend Leah Lobo, along with others, talking about her virtual harmony region and basically coping with turbulent times, virtual harmony during turbulent times. There are also many other films up there. I mean, if you go to the account VWBPE at YouTube and then just click on the thing saying videos, if you scroll down the list, you'll see that there's actually massive amount of videos they've put up. I don't know, maybe it was over 3 days, and I suppose there might be about 10 a day on average. Not entirely sure, but so you can imagine probably 30ish or something. Different things. Some are very specialized, as you would expect at an education conference, but others are more general, especially the keynotes and some of the panels that we're talking about, changes during the last year because of COVID and stuff, have a much more general interest. Um, there's more educational theme specific, shall we say. Anyway, that's it. That's it.
Hmm.
And, so I say plenty this week to go for, but I'm just going to, I don't know, I can't, YouTube's giving me an error message, which is hiding the ticker, showing me how long I've been on air.
Oh, I can tell you, an hour and 43
Yeah.
minutes.
Oh, not quite the hour and 30 of last week, but
Nope.
nevertheless,
Still
we
pretty
are
good.
getting better. We're getting better at bringing it to
Indeed.
bringing
And I
it all to
recalled,
you
I recalled my
quicker.
thought for the day, and I have to talk to you about this because it's what I do in my day job, and that's equity versus equality. They are very different, and a great way
Ah,
to understand it is that equality is the same thing for everybody. And so
yeah,
a common graphic used in this discussion is a short person, a tall person, and a medium-sized person trying to look over a wall at a football game, a soccer game. And they, if you give everybody the same size box, the tall person is too tall and the small person is not tall enough. But if you give everybody the size box they need, then they can all see the
yeah.
game the same. So that
So
equality is giving everybody the
that's
same thing.
equality. Yeah.
Equity
And
is
what did
giving
it? Equitable is something different. Is that
equity is giving
different?
people what they need to
Ah,
see,
right.
to see over the fence.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm. Yeah, they did make it clear that they were two different things. But yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Um,
No, we do this work all the time, so I could not be silent
you could
about it.
not. You could not
Right.
resist. Yeah.
Yep.
And then also, I mean, to be honest, so it's like reading words out. I mean, I didn't mention it earlier, but I did mention we had to fill in the census. today, but I got a reminder about that, and I
Oh,
thought I was
right,
getting
right.
a message. I thought I was getting a reminder, which was a message from a censor.
Oh, okay.
Who's who? Who's talking about censorship?
Were you using
And then I
language in our last program?
yeah, and it was my own notes that I was being
Oh,
reminded me about.
all right, all right.
So what was happening is I would see equity and equality on screen, and if I'm running through something quick, it's very easy to slip into the wrong word,
Mm-hmm.
even when you haven't got the two side by side, which we
Right,
did
right.
there. So yeah, it's funny. There are words that I stumble over like that. Mostly because I'm going through too fast to
Mm-hmm.
actually register. You know.
Yep.
Oh, you must know there's thousands of those words that
Oh, yeah.
sound the same but are very
On.
different, aren't
Yep.
they? So,
Yep.
the interesting thing I spoke to Spiff Whitfield about was he on Thursday he did a session which I didn't really fully understand. It just seemed to be almost like a game, but it was about acronyms, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "What's the first?" He said to the audience, "What's the first acronym that comes to mind?" I went AFK.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
it was meant to be. I was meant to be funny, but it just went floating by. But then they were trying to decide apparently what OBE was short for. And I said, but there's no contest. It's the Order of the British Empire.
Ah.
You see, if I get awarded, if the Queen likes me, she might give me an Order of the British Empire for services to virtual worlds or something, or music or comics. Well, they hand them out. I'm not going to get one now, but some of the Beatles have one. Actually, quite a lot of people have them. But whenever I hear OBE, I just it's a suffix. Mark Burns OBE. I could be a member of MBE is a member of the British Empire, opposed to an order of the British Empire, and that kind of thing. So the acronym had a totally different meaning for me than
Yeah.
apparently all these people at the conference. I still can't remember what it is meant to stand for in America. But it's not all in the British Empire, that's for
That's
sure.
not the
But
word
it
they
was
were looking for, right?
it was a really odd anecdotal session because the audience were coming up with all sorts of acronyms, and I was looking at them. They were sort of contributing them to the speaker as part of the conversation. I was looking down this list and saying, what does that mean? I've never heard of that one. After you got through the obligatory, rolling on the floor laughing and stuff like that, you run out.
Mm-hmm.
There are apparently millions of them. And I do see in Life Hacker and The Verge and some of these journals online, there's sort of, they have the occasional article. They have what I haven't checked it out yet, but the recent one was what is GOAT and when do you use it? It's an acronym, GOAT, like
Mm-hmm.
the animal. Now, I have no idea what it is, but they've got a post that tells me what it is and when I should use it.
It's I feel like
You know it.
it's greatest of all time. Greatest of all time.
Oh, fair enough. Of course,
Does it
that
work?
makes sense. If you know, if you know what the phrase is, you can figure out the
Right.
acronym very easily.
Doing it
But it's the
backwards
other
though,
way.
right?
Um,
Right.
the other one I have a real problem with is actually the conference itself. I can never. It took me ages to get VWBPE right.
Mm-hmm.
If unless I slow down and think it out, I'll go VWP,
Mm-hmm.
WVP. I just took me a long time to get
Oh
that in the
yeah. I
right
tell my
order.
family and they look at me and go, "What? What are you saying? Is
Yeah.
that even English you're saying?" I doubt it.
Yeah, it's modern language.
Yep.
It defies language
It
description. It's
does. It
simply
does.
it exists in limbo as a
Mm.
reference. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we better call it quits
All
before
right.
we carry on air, not realizing we're still on air, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, we will return same time, same place next week. Hopefully a little bit less exhausted because we won't have been conferencing for half the
Ah,
week.
so true. Yep.
Indeed. And hope you've enjoyed the show, everybody, and it has been useful to you. Don't forget to check my Malburns, MALBURNS account on Twitter. Also, why not follow Metaworld News on Twitter at the same time? And you can see the show again in replay anytime on my own channel, Mal Burns, 2 words this time, at YouTube, and embedded various other places too, various blogs and stuff. Right. So that's it. It's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him.
That means it's goodbye from both of us because when it comes to AR or VR or MR or XR, there is only one common denominator. That is
We
we
are.
are. Yay! I got it. Give us a clap, folks. Come on.
Right.
We wasn't that. Yeah, that's more like it. I know it's corny, but at least we're going to give a round of applause. It is the end of the show. We will see you again, same time, same place next week. Until then, stay safe, stay indoors, stay doing whatever you have to do, and yeah, make it a good one. Bye for now.